Welcome to this book cover Avec tea and Vino. Settle in. I hope you've got a nice glass of wine or a cheerful cup of tea. We've got two fantastic tutors for this masterclass. We have Julie Lawrence, who's going to cover book cover design and the key principles that you'll need to know. And then we've got Eleanor Gervin, and we're going to have your crayons and your pencils and felts ready, because then we're going to have a practice run at designing your book cover. So welcome to the session. Let me introduce Julie. So Julie's a fantastic tutor for the session because she has an honours degree in graphics communication. And in fact, she was the graduate of the year in 2000. She has taught design and professional studies at university level at the School of Arts at the University of Northampton, and her focus was book covers. So there's the right person for this job. Julie's also been an integral part of our team at Look After Me, working with our creative teams and also in user interface. And she is even modelled for us, and that's her on our front on our homepage on the bottom right-hand corner. When Look After Me pivoted our company to include events and experiences, Julie was also right there beside us with our Keep Calm and Carry On campaign with our Queen's High Tea in Dunedin, and that's her with the folks in Dunedin. And also very grateful for Julie for helping us host the Great Write-In when we had that event in October. So without further ado, please you give a warm welcome to Julie Lawrence. She's going to be talking about effective book cover design, and she joins us today just north of Dunedin. So over to you, Julie.
Hi there, Julia. Lovely to see you again. Lovely to be with you and Eleanor, and such a pleasure to work with you, and such a lot of fun. As you can see from all those photos, we get up to all sorts of mischief together. Thanks very much for being interested in book cover design, and I'm a lifelong fan of design, as you know. Famous architect Alan Fletcher sums it up for me: design is not a thing you do, it's a way of life. So it is really very close to my heart, and I'm just really pleased to be able to share this with you today. So I will share my screen, if that's okay, and we'll just get through some PowerPoint slides and have a look at some book cover considerations.
Yep, looking good. Great.
Great. Okay, so you should see a title that says Effective Book Cover Design Considerations, as a funny little picture of me and my name. Can you see that, everyone?
Yep, looking good.
Great. Okay, so we're going to cover some key principles of book cover design. The who, that is who's going to be looking, who's going to be reading your book, who are these people, and why should we be interested in who they are, what they think. And we're going to look at why. That's the why is good design key, why is it important. We're going to actually look at the what, which is what exactly are the key elements that go on a book cover, and the how. So we're going to sort of cover a little bit of the basic design information. There is quite a lot to go through, but I'm sure we can nut it out and get a few really key basic design principles covered today. Okay, first of all, the why. Sorry, the who. Who are you writing for? Now, you've probably seen things like this before. Genres, you're writing to a certain genre of reader. This is your typical reader. And in design terms, the target audience. So we actually need to research what their preferences are. And why do we need to do this? Because there are a million, from research that I've done, there are 1 million new books published every year. And that's quite a lot of noise as far as our target market is concerned. There's quite a lot of books to sift through to try and reach our target audience. Just like the chocolate that you choose. Here I've got Donovan's because I choose Donovan's when I'm doing my baking. Your favorite chocolate will be designed to appeal to you. So whether it's Whittaker's because you prefer to buy New Zealand brands, or whether it's Cadbury's because you're a diehard Dunediner who just loves to eat Cadbury's, perhaps not anymore, or Lindt because it's got that extreme top market brand identity. There'll be the chocolate you prefer to eat, and the same goes for the genre of book, the target market that you're actually aiming for. So if you've ever wondered why some movies or TV ads just don't appeal to you, honestly, it's because they're not targeted at you. It's something to think about. Imagery and words are targeted at certain types of people, and the same goes for book covers. It's very important. If you are interested in getting people to read your book, you need to get their attention somehow. I'll give you a little example. This is my favorite all time book. It's called Wild Pony by Lucy Rees, and I'll just open the book up for you. You can see the whole book cover there. I used to live in Wales, and I used to go riding there. And Lucy Rees, who's the author of this book, she actually owned the riding stable that I used to go to. And I used to live with my aunt for a little while. And one Christmas, a few years later, after I'd left Wales, my aunt sent me this book. And she said, Lucy's written a book about, it's a fictional book about the stables and a young girl called Pippa. And she signed this for you. And it just, my heart just sang when I saw it. It touched my soul because it was so targeted at me as this young girl who absolutely loved horses and loved riding and loved the wilds of Wales. And a little while after that, my aunt actually told me that the illustrator that had painted me, and so that was actually me on the cover of this book. So of course, this is going to be my absolute favorite book. And she signed it for me, which is awesome as well. So you can see how something really touched my heart, and it's lasted all this while. And it's had such an influence over me that it's now my daughter's book, and she loves horses and she goes riding, and I'm still involved with horses. I still volunteer at the RDA. So it has a deep connection with me. So making that connection is the point that I'm trying to make. Really important. You need to research their preferences. The easiest thing to do is check out your competitors. What are they doing? What are the top competitors that you have, and any industry trends. And trends change from time to time. It's sort of whether something is more tactile on a book cover, as well as the imagery. So just have a look at the trends. It's important. You might need to spend a little bit more time than you thought initially on that side. Okay, so why is good design important? Well, honestly, our mind has a lot to take in. Remember those 1 million books published every year? We actually have to find out, we have to sort of sift through all of that. We have to try and reach through all of that minefield of information. And actually, there's quite a bit of science to this. So our primitive brain has not evolved as fast as we imagine. Our primitive brain still thinks that there's a saber-toothed tiger out there going to come around the corner and eat us. And so our brain wants to actually go on the go slow until it has to jump into action. And so what it does is it looks for shortcuts. Now, these shortcuts could be words and images. And that's why it's so important. Remember, the adverts on TV that are not targeted at you, or they are targeted at you. It's actually a brain hack. It's a waving flag. And a waving flag is a somatic marker. Okay, and you need to create, if you want people to pick up your book and show some interest, you need to create a waving flag. Remember my 12-year-old self, that picture of the horse and the little girl lying in the field there, that was my somatic marker. So, and titles can be very important too. So I recently had to come up with a headline for a highly contentious public debate about hotel bed tax for a well-known, so I actually used a very well-known fairy tale, The Little Red Riding Hood, and called the debate, "Who's afraid of the big bad bed tax?" So straight away you had this emotional connection with Little Red Riding Hood, with the bed tax. Is it the big bad wolf or not? So you made that connection with something which actually the Little Red Riding Hood is known all over the world. So it went quite well. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a book cover and in more detail on the what side of things. Oh my gosh, what the is that, you say to yourselves? Well, I'm going to show you through each section at a time. So let's just start with the front panel and the book cover. The front panel book cover. This section here, you can see the text is actually very large in proportion to the page. And that's really important because the title, as I just mentioned to you with the big bad bed tax, if you want to catch someone's attention, then you need to have some powerful words in your title. And the way to have those powerful words is to actually make sure that they are both legible and readable. So this is why I've actually put that text so large and in such a simple font. So it's called a sans serif font. That means there's no little fancy curls at the end of it, and it's very plain and simple. You can, if you're not having too many words on the front panel there, you can actually use a serif, which is the fancy cursive fonts, but it is hard to read, so you need to make sure that the text is very, very large. So of course you want the front panel text, you want the subtext if there is one, and there's a good example here. So I'm just going to show you a good example here with actually no artwork on it at all, but it's the famous book. Can you see that? I'm okay, you're okay. And look at that, no artwork on it at all. That's just horrendous. Eleanor will never forgive me for showing you this, but it's in yellow and black. So clearly there's something very important and dangerous, and watch out, you know, because yellow and black is a danger colors. You know, have a look and have a read at this and don't think about anything else. I'm okay, you're okay. You need to pick up this book. And I don't think in the republished copies of this, there's been any other imagery on there. So it is something to bear in mind. Bill Bryson, here's another cover there, nice big lettering. Well, obviously his name's coming up top there because he's a brand in his own right. And then really nice big text. So some serif text there, font, but also some very big sans serif fonts there, and then the imagery, which is indicative of that's actually bracing Skegness. It really is quite bracing there. Okay, also on the cover, you do need to put the author, as I've said. So just to go into a little bit more detail about fonts, you can use fancy fonts for large words or the title, but plain and sans serif for smaller text. Remember too that some fonts on a very practical level are wider than others. If you have a look at the bottom of the screen, you can see that Calibri is a wide sans serif font. So that's the same size text as Pacifico at the top, but it's actually widened. You can see how it's actually outside of that red rectangle that I've put there. And on the left of Calibri is a sans serif font called Arial Narrow. So if you've actually got a very big title like The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night, you know, that's quite a lot of words to get on a page. You might want to use something that's narrow, so you can get all the words on that, but it's also sans serif, so it's simple and plain to read, because remember, our brain is always looking for shortcuts. If it's too hard to read, the brain gives up because it's waiting for the saber-toothed tiger. Right. In the middle of this picture here, you can see this serif font suggests romance. So do think about who your genre of reader is. You know, is it really important for them to see something in a soft and gentle color, in a soft and gentle serif font? If it's absolutely indicative of the type of reader that you're aiming for, and romance novels are very popular in the world today, then yes, you're going to have to think about that, using that font to attract that reader. Below, I've just showed another example. This sans serif font suggests 1950s detectives. It looks a bit like a typewriter. So you can actually give a clue about the content of the book in the font that you use. So use a font that gives a clue, use an appropriate color for the font that fits with the genre, but is still legible. Do your research, competitors, trends, target market. Less is more. Don't overcrowd the front page. As you can see here, the poster, think of it as a movie poster for your book. The Martian, this is the poster for the movie The Martian, Bring Him Home. Who doesn't want to look at Matt Damon? But it looks very clear, very simple to read. And on the right hand side, I just wanted to show you there, this is the packaging for an item of clothing that my daughter received in the post. She hadn't even opened the package, and it was a very exciting package with a birthday dress in there, but she couldn't wait to show me the packaging, because the packaging sold the product. So the packaging, the poster, the advert is your front cover, all in one. So think about the book cover being your packaging for your book. Remember to spell check everything, test that legibility and readability. Please don't make your book cover title too hard to understand. Again, the brain just gives up and moves on and looks at another of the 999,000 books that are out there, and just follow those basic text and font design rules. I worked for an advertising agency once. They managed to put an advert in the paper, in the Daily Times, in the Times, and got lots of their top clients, blue chip companies like Procter and Gamble, to advertise, put their logos in this advert because they wanted to promote that all these companies supported them. They just put one line across the top of the advert. It said, "All these companies sued us." And it should have said, "All these companies used us." So please do not ever think that simple mistakes can't be made. 2 little letters put in the wrong order, used and sued, it made a whole heck of difference, and it was very embarrassing for the client, for the advertising agency and their clients. Okay, spell check story. Okay, so just to remind you that Eleanor's coming up after me, and she's going to be working on that lovely imagery that you're going to want to put on there to make that somatic marker, that waving flag. But just back to step 2 now of the book cover. So we're looking at the inside flap of your book cover, and if you've got a paperback, it might not be a flap like this on the jacket. It might just be the text inside. Just a few little considerations that need to go on here. So place intriguing information about your book in this section. Presumably you've got some intriguing information. Again, that's another somatic marker to try and reach to your target audience. What does Bill say? He talks about how he actually went around Britain 20 years ago and did a little walkabout, and then he went back again and did it again. So he's written this book about it. So it's the hook that fits with the imagery on the front. Any testimonials are really important to go there too. The luminaries, obviously, who doesn't know of this book? Inside cover of that book are all testimonials, pages and pages and pages of them. If so-and-so says that book's good enough to read, then it's good enough for me. It's another shortcut. It's another brain hack. Just one last consideration here on the right-hand side. Just make sure that any text that you put on these separate sections of the book cover, including the front panel, you're at least 10 millimeters in from the edge. When something like this goes to print, it's cropped. If the text goes too close to the edge, you could lose some words. And it just looks unprofessional if it's too close to the edge. So keep it at least 10 mil in. That means you probably need to drop the text size down a little bit. I've used smaller text here. Okay. Oops. choose keywords that interest your target, make them count. Can you add a passage from the book that will enchant the reader? That's on the front panel. That's another option that you can use. There's no hard and fast rules to this, but you know, if you've done your research and you know what your competitors are doing and you know what's current and vogue, you might just find that that helps you make a decision. Okay, so the spine of the book is also a really, really important part. So just having a look here at the luminaries again, she's managed to get all the artwork. It's a nice thick book, so she's managed to get all the artwork down there, and then the luminaries, of course, is in this very fancy gold embossed writing. So it's a clue. Luminaries, light, you know, so she's used gold embossing so that it actually looks light. Very specific there. And even if your book is teeny tiny, you can actually still get some very clear wording and details on there. So there's just a little book of friendship, that is, which is really dear and sweet. So if you're having a lot of wording, you might want to just put each word, like the curious incident of the dog in the night, across each line. So that's easy to read. However, if you've got a fairly succinct title, you can actually roll it down from the top to the bottom as shown here. And I'm sure you already know this because you're all book lovers. You'd often put the publisher's brand or logo on there because, again, that's another semantic marker. People will buy books based on the publisher. If it's a reputable publisher, they might say, hey, I love BWB texts. I'm going to go and buy some of that. Doesn't matter what it is. I just want to add it to my collection and get to it further down the year. So think about that. And then, of course, the actual primo position is the author. That's you. You need to make sure that you're singing your own song there on the spine and keeping that text nice and easy to read. So author, book title, artwork, which is your thematic flag, and then any embossings or visual aids or clues that you can give to attract your target reader, the publisher, and keep the text and fonts consistent. So just showing you again, Bill Bryson, same with the front, he's used down the spine. Okay, I'm going to show you a really terrible example now. Sorry, this is also one of my all-time favorite books, but just look at the mess on the cover there. The text's all set at a funny angle. The is sort of all the way over on the right-hand side for the title. There's the sans serif font, the serif font, which is too fancy, which is fighting with the artwork. Such a shame. I bought the book anyway because, you know, I always like to keep it's a bit like The Catcher in the Rye. I always like to keep a book handy, one of these, but it's just an awful book cover. And the back as well, the artwork has folded over the graphics for the owl, and it's interfering with the text on there as well, so it's hard to read. Give up and don't bother is probably what that book is saying to the reader. Okay, back panel now. This is another really key area. I don't know about you, but usually when you pick up a book, just going to find another one here, you want to find out as quickly as possible in the shortest space of time, is this going to be a useful book for me? So I've already been hooked with this book, and the first thing that I see is some really nice testimonials. Stephen Fry has recommended this book, and it's looking interesting. I've turned the page over, and then there's another half a dozen of testimonials on the back. So now I'm going to open up that front cover and invest a bit of time in seeing if it's suitable for me. So your book, character, and plot can go in this section, or testimonials. It's not a hard and fast rule. The thing about the design side of it, though, make sure it's well within the space that you're given. It's a nice, clean, easy text. In the Western world, we prefer to read from left to right. You can justify the text on the back of the book, like Bill Bryson has done. That's centered it rather, sorry. Okay, and he centered it nicely in that nice blue sky space of the artwork, so it's easy to read. But just make sure that it's very clear and easy to read, and keep the font the same, so the font family. So if you're using 2 or 3 fonts on the whole of the book cover, that's fine, but just make sure that you're not using too many different ones. You can use something called a font family, in which case there might be 5 or 6 different styles to one font, so you could use all those styles if you wanted. Okay, so set the scene for your target market here. Who are the characters? What's the plot? Provide a spoiler. You can do that, or testimonials if that's possible. Ask someone who's read your book for help in this area. Don't give too much away, and just provide that point of view to entice them in, that hook. Or you could just do what Lucy Reese did, and she put nothing on the back. It was the artwork. Isn't that gorgeous? One day I'm hoping that my daughter will let me frame that book cover, but for now it's just there, you know. It's very dear. So you can see on the left hand side of the screen there, do you just use an image? Okay, on to the inside back cover now. Hello, Julia. There you are, the author of the book, and the text about the author goes here. So please take time to you know, talk about yourself. Who are you? Why should the reader want to learn a little bit more about you? Is it because of your absolute passion for what you do, and your genuine desire to enhance the reader's life, really, by sharing what it is? You know, if you do have a photographer as well that's taken the photo, please acknowledge them there. That's the copyright that you need to do. It could be yourself or an agent, but these are the things that you put on the inside back. I have actually seen, don't know if yeah. So it's another one of my favorite books that I'm reading at the moment. There's a whole series of them. The #1 Ladies Detective Agency, inside back cover. Look at that. All the other books that she's written, or he's written, sorry, Alexander. It's actually written by a guy, quite interesting. Yeah, so he's written an awful lot of books, actually. So he's put them on the front and back because he's using that space to sell more of his stories. Why not? So succinctly pen your previous literary achievements and skills and accolades as appropriate. Okay, if you've got awards, now is the time to actually tell people about them. It does help create that shortcut that you want people, so people will walk out with your book from the bookstore. Okay, so a few odds and sods here. Let's just have a look at the top left-hand rectangle, leaving a good space between the text and the final print edge of your book cover. Have I said that before? Yes, I have. Why is it important? Every piece of design, it's just so easy for words and important things to get cut off the page, and it's just so sad when it does happen. And ensure, on the top right hand section here, I've put ensure the artwork extends beyond the final printed book size by at least 10 mils. So the blue rectangle, which represents the artwork, you need to, which represents the space that the text goes in, and the printed edge, so where it will be cut. The yellow rectangle at the back is where the artwork needs to go to. So you need to take it 10 millimeters beyond where it's going to be its final size, because the printer will cut it down to size. So you need to kind of make the image bigger than you actually need it. Okay, so bear that in mind when you're looking at artwork, so that you don't cut any artwork off as well, because that would be terrible. Not really, it's not really here, but supposing you cut, you know, you had to cut some of the page off and then you ended up cutting part of my lovely wild pony, you know, that would be dreadful. So bottom left screen, set all the text to range left in the front and back flaps. Justified, you can just about get away with, but now make sure that you put all of the text boxes in the middle of those spaces. You know, don't do, can't find it now, you know, Don't do what this book did, which you can clearly see didn't set the text properly so that it could be legible, and actually part of the text is now missing and almost around on the spine. So it's really just a terrible mistake. Long book titles run best down the center of the spine. Only place text in the areas here that I've shown you shaded in blue. So these parts in the middle between the back, the back flap and the back, you can see there's like a yellow strip. That's actually the artwork, and that will be where the where the cover folds around the edge or the spine. So here, so you don't actually want anything, any text or anything there, because it could get lost in the folds. Only place text in the spaces shaded blue. An artwork can cover the whole background space shaded yellow, and I'll show you how that looks. Oops. So we've put some artwork on our page now, and you can see how I've actually spread the artwork beyond the pink printed line. So where that pink line is, it actually shows you that's going to be the final cut for the final book jacket or book cover size. You've got nice clear fonts and nice clear text at the right size, easy to read left to right, all the key things that need to go on the page. And looking at the bottom, we've got the back flap showing the back wrap there, the back panel, the ISBN number, which needs to go on the back flap as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. The spine is there with the publisher's logo, the front panel with the author and the title, the front wrap corner, and then the front flap with that information. So can you spot any errors? Well, I've left some in on purpose. Looking at the left-hand side, the copyright symbol error, simple mistake. Just the font hasn't sat well with the final PDF, and the C, which should sit inside that circle, has actually slipped out. So that's an error. It doesn't look very professional. Make sure that that's resolved. Also, I've left the blue grid lines which show up, which have shown clearly which is the front and back and the panels, so that we can be guided there. But I've left them on by accident. We don't want those printed on either. The ISBN number is incorrect. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't think there's an ISBN number called that that's being used. It's just a pretend one. Doesn't look professional, and you can't see it. So actually that ISBN, there's a few rules you need to think about with ISBN numbers, and I've provided a link for you to go and have a look at that information after this presentation. Looking at Julia's name here, the font is really quite hard to see on the front cover. So Julia might want that. She might want a subtle blue. I know that that is her brand identity color, and it might be really important for her to have that. But if I'm buying the book because I'm buying Julia, the brand Julia, or the brand Bill Bryson and so on, that's going to be hard for me to see. And I want to take as many shortcuts as I can. And here are the last section here. It shows you how the front cover artwork by Fancy, that designs, the word fancy is almost, has been cut off by the print edge. And if you have used a design agency and you need to give them the kudos that they've so rightly deserved, then please make sure that you get that that text there nicely and snugly fitting inside. Okay, so just as you can see, moving on, I've just put a few little bit more pieces of information. I've taken the title now and I've put a black box behind it, because now I really want to create some shortcuts and I really want you to notice that title. So Secret Diary of a Woman Entrepreneur in New Zealand. And my client Julia has said to me, that's not quite right, Julia. I like the picture on the background, but this is a global this is an international book with an international target market, not particularly New Zealand, and it's very nice, but it's actually not broad enough for what I need. Okay, so I'm still trying to think of some more headlines that could really capture that person's attention, that target market. So I've made the black box even bigger, and I've changed the color of the text and the size of the fonts, and I've italicized the word secret, because that's another semantic marker. Oh, that would be interesting. And I've added a word, serial entrepreneur. And if you don't look too closely, it could actually be like a serial something other than entrepreneur, but it's sensationalized that word. And you might want to put a picture of a knife in with some blood dripping off it, if that was your genre of target market. Thank goodness Julia isn't, and I would never use that for you, but I'm just trying to make a point, Julia. Okay, so now I have taken that out and I've been a bit more sensible. I'm using that word secret still, and as you can see down the spine, I'm actually mirroring what's on the front cover on the back, on the spine rather, because obviously quite often books are sold on bookshelves with not the front cover showing, so it needs to be consistent with what's on the cover. I've taken out the words New Zealand because, as Julia said, that wasn't what she was looking for. I've used her brand identity colors, woman, because that is her target market that she's appealing to read. I've put the white box behind the ISBN number, so that's nice and easy to use. And then I finally, Julia doesn't know about this, I put a picture of Julia on the front cover, because my biggest secret to you to reveal today is that people love to look at faces. And Julia's got such a lovely smile and warm, endearing personality. She needs to go right on the front of that book. And there's a little bit of a hook there. What is that entrepreneur up to? Why is she holding that iPad there? And who are those people in the background? I'm hooked. I want to know much, much more. Okay. So I'm sure Julia will let you have this information after the end of this session. Copyright law for New Zealand book publishers, ISBN info. Do your research, please. There is a couple of templates, providers, Adobe Creative and Canva, and you can go on there just to get some, ideas. You don't need to use them. And then, of course, there's a list of all the considerations there that you need to think about for the cover, the spine, the back cover, inside front wrap and inside back wrap. Why not create a couple of book cover concepts, either or 2 or 3, and just work through them and sort of eliminate the ones that are a no, and then maybe borrow some ideas from one and move to the other. Get constructive feedback from people that you trust, friends and family, and even a designer or two. It might save you a lot of time, effort, and money. So good luck, everybody, and happy designing. And it's just been my absolute pleasure to make this presentation, and I hope it helps. I really do. I look forward to seeing all of your books on the shelves very soon. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Julie, and please join me in giving Julie a really big hand. What a wonderful presentation, and thank you for using my book, Secret Diary of an Entrepreneur. That was a bit of a surprise for me, so it was amazing to see, something one of my dreams come to life, and for all of you creating book covers, or indeed covers for the short stories that you've written. I really hope this has been beneficial. So yeah, we'll end this session now, and thank you very much, Julie. A really great job. Thank you so much.
Welcome. You're welcome.